Hello folks, this is going to be a lecture on OS login. So OS login is another way you can actually log into a VM instance in GCP. The benefit of using OS login is the primary benefit is that your Linux user is basically linked to your Google identity. So what that means is that the identity with which you log into the GCP console can be used to also log into your Linux machine. So this has many advantages, but the most important advantage is that if you're an administrator, it becomes easy for you to actually restrict access to certain users to certain machines, which would otherwise be very difficult if you're using the old SSH way of doing things. So let us start. So I'll be teaching you three things today. The first one is to enable the OS login feature to give permissions to a particular individual to have access to OS login, and the third thing is to log into your machine using using certain tools like putty or even Gcloud once you have OS login installed in your machine. So the first part is pretty straightforward, where you just need to make this particular key enabled or set to true. So this can be done in three ways. It can be done at an organization level, it can be done at a project level, or at an instance level. If you have to set the enable OS login true for the organization, for that you need to go into your IAM, go into your organization policies, search for OS login, require OS login. And what you need to do here is you need to set this to true. So what that will do is anytime a particular instance is created within this particular organization, it will have OS login set as true. So to do that, you just go click on edit, click on customize and set this to true and save it. But you should also remember that if you set it to true, this becomes only applicable for projects that you create afterwards. That is, the projects that are already created will not have this enabled. And that would also mean if you have already created a project and if you're trying to create a virtual machine within that, then it wouldn't work. So it's only applicable for projects that are created after you've set this to true. So that is one thing you need to remember. The second way of doing it is if you want to do it for a particular project. So to do that, let's go to a particular project. You need to go to compute engine, and in compute engine you need to go to metadata, and in your metadata you need to edit and you need to make this as true. So I've already set this to true, but if you wish to remove it, you can just remove it like this. So I'll just add it once more. I just copy this and set this to true, and I'll save it. Once I have done this, so any new instance that is created within this project will have the OS login enabled. So you don't need to go set it at an instance level. And the third way of doing it is, like I said before, at the instance level. So if you have to set it at an instance level, you need to, let me just create a new instance for you and show how it's done. So I'm creating an instance 2. And if I have to set OS login true just for this particular instance, I need to go to management, metadata, and there I need to enable this, set this as true. So this will have caused instance 2 to have the OS login enabled. So those are the three ways by which you can have OS login enabled So like I said before, you can do it at three levels. One is at the organization level, where you need to set it at the policy level for that organization. The second is if you want to do it at the project level, for that you need to do it at the project metadata level. And if you want to do it for the instance, you need to do it at the instance metadata level. So that concludes the first part of getting the OS login enabled. The second part is fairly straightforward as well. So the second part is you have to make sure that the particular user who is trying to access that machine has either this role or this role enabled. So if you want to give that individual access to sudo, then then you need to give this particular role. However, if you want to restrict a particular user to not have any sudo access, then you have to give this particular role to that user. So let's try to do that. So currently I am the admin. So the admin, since he's the owner of the project, will automatically have that particular role enabled. However, we can just check once again. So I'll go to IAM. Since I am the owner, since I am admin, I'm already the owner of this project, so I automatically have this enabled. However, if I were to create another user called, let's say, a developer who is not the owner, then I would need to give these two either one of these accesses. So I have a user called developer, and I want to give him access to just the OS login and not the admin login role. Then I can just I have actually given both these roles already, but I would want to restrict it to just one role. So I'll just click on this. I will just remove this role. And if I have to, I'll just remove it and show it once more. I'll click on the role. I'll need to go to compute engine. And from here, I'll select OS login. So now the particular user called developer will have access just to the non-admin role. So he'll not be able to access sudo. I will save it. Since I'm the admin, I will already have all these accesses, but let's try to anyways add that role again. So I'll go to compute engine. From here, I'll select and save. So that concludes the second part. The third part is trying to log into the machine. So there are multiple ways to log into the machine. The easiest way would be to just use Gcloud. So let's try to use Gcloud to log into the machine. So let's go back to machine. I can do an SSH directly as well. So if I just click on this, so I'm logged in. If I were to use a Gcloud command, then I just need to click on view Gcloud command. I will just run this in Cloud Shell to see if it's working. It's no longer a beta, so I can just remove this. So the command is pretty straightforward. It's Gcloud compute. I'm trying to SSH into this particular zone for this particular instance, and the project is this. I will authorize. And there you have it. I am logged into that particular instance. But let's say you want to use putty to log in. So to do that, you have to first install putty. So you can use putty or any other third party tool to log in. So I've actually installed putty in my machine. So to start, we first need to create a key. Now, this is not applicable if you're using Gcloud. If you're using Gcloud, you don't need to worry about procuring keys. It's very straightforward. However, if you want to use any third-party tool like putty, then you need to do a little bit of work. So the first thing you need to do is you need to create a private and a public key. So let's start by doing that. So I have puttygen to create my keys. You could use any other tool as well. So I will just generate a key. So I have my public and my private key. So I will save my private key. Yes, I had already created one. Let me just remove this. I will save it as private and I will copy this content and I'll save this as public in the same folder. So let me go to my documents folder. I had a public file. Let me just remove this. I'll create a new one. I will save this as public. So once you have your key saved, you need to run a command. This Gcloud command to set up your keys so that you can run it using an external third-party tool. So it's fairly straightforward. It's Gcloud compute OSLogin. The keys you need to give the public key and you need to give the time to live. So let me just copy this. So I have my Gcloud in my local machine as well. So I'll just copy this. I will add my So once this is done, once you've run that particular command, the second thing you need to do is you need to open your putty. You need to see what the name of the user is, the username. So I'll just copy this, paste it. Oops. I need to get the name of the instance. So then, I mean the IP of the instance. I'll just copy the IP. And I need to set the private key for that particular public key. So once these two parameters are set, I will just save this as save and I'll try to open. And now you can see that using my putty, I was able to log into that machine. So that's how you log in using a third-party tool. If you have any doubts or any issues with how this works, you can just mail me or you can just ping me in the comments below. Thank you.